In the cold silence of a St. Petersburg morning, a young man waits to die. His hands are tied, the blindfold scratches against his trembling skin, and the rifles are already raised. This was the moment when the life of Fyodor Dostoevsky should have ended, but fate, with its cruel and theatrical irony, had other plans. Instead of death, he was given a second life, a life carved from pain, poverty, madness, imprisonment, epileptic torment, and the unbearable weight of human suffering. Dostoevsky did not simply write the darkness of men. He lived it, he breathed it, he drowned in it, and then crawled back to the surface, bringing with him stories that changed the world. Tonight, we walk into the abyss with him. We explore the life of a man who believed that humanity is at its most beautiful when standing on the brink of ruin. A man who once whispered, pain and suffering are always inevitable, but they lead us to deeper consciousness. If you want more dark philosophy, tragic biographies, and deeply human storytelling, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe. It helps the story continue. Take a breath, we begin. The snow that morning looked almost peaceful, almost innocent, as if the city itself had no idea it was hosting a public execution. Dostoevsky stood among a group of revolutionaries, men who had dared to think, to question, to hope. For this crime, they were sentenced to death. The soldiers marched forward. Bayonets glinted. Their cold steel reflected a face that was still young, a face not yet carved by suffering. Fyodor tried to whisper a prayer, but his mouth was too dry, his heartbeat too loud. He had once written, later, when you stand before the firing squad, everything becomes painfully clear. The countdown began. 3, a breath frozen in mid-air. 2, someone beside him began to sob. 1, and then a horseman, galloping through the square, carrying a letter that stopped death itself, a pardon, a cruel gift meant to teach obedience through terror. Dostoevsky collapsed, not in relief, but in horror at the realization that the life he had until then taken for granted had been stolen and returned to him as a punishment. This moment shattered him completely. In his later writings, he described the feeling to be brought to the edge of death is to have one's soul torn open. From this moment on, he was no longer a young intellectual. He became something else, a man who had looked directly into the void and survived. But survival has a cost, and the cost for Dostoevsky was everything. Pause. Now, exile awaits him. Siberia was not a place. It was a death sentence written in frost. The prison camp was filled with murderers, thieves, and broken men. Dostoevsky slept on lice-infested planks, surrounded by bodies twisted by cold and cruelty. He witnessed brutality that scars the mind, not just the flesh. He once wrote, "There are moments when you feel nothing but the animal left inside you." The prisoners mocked him, beat him, called him the nobleman with venom dripping from their tongues. He was not one of them. He could not become one of them, and yet, slowly, painfully, he learned to understand them. He learned that even in monsters, there is a spark of humanity, often small, often dim, but never fully extinguished. This revelation reshaped him. He observed their fears, their regrets, their childish pride, their dreams that still flickered through the cracks of their crimes. He wrote later, "Nothing in this world is more difficult than judging another man's soul." At night, he clutched a smuggled New Testament to his chest. It was the only book allowed in the camp, a gift from a mysterious woman whose name he never fully revealed. Those nights carved themselves into his memory like wounds: cold, loneliness, the stench of unwashed bodies, the rattling coughs of dying criminals, the echoes of chains, the soft, muffled cries of men who had forgotten how to cry. But somewhere inside this hell, Fyodor found a small flame of hope. He realized human beings are not defined by their crimes, but by their suffering. This belief became the foundation of everything he would one day write. Siberia broke him, but it also rebuilt him. He entered the camp a rebellious intellectual. He left it a prophet of human pain. When Dostoevsky returned to the world, he did not return whole. He carried the trauma of Siberia in every breath. He suffered from violent epileptic seizures, moments he described as the highest spirituality and the deepest terror combined. He was drowning in debt, chased by creditors, haunted by deadlines he could never meet, and worst of all, he discovered a new form of self-destruction, gambling. The roulette table became his battlefield, his addiction, his demon. He believed that if he could win big just once, he could rebuild his life, but the wheel does not give. It devours. There were nights he lost everything: money, dignity, hope. He wrote, "I do not gamble for riches. I gamble to crucify myself." Yet even in this chaos, something miraculous happened. At the darkest point of his life, he met Anna, the young stenographer who would later become his wife. She watched him gamble, watched him lose, watched him break down in a hotel room, choking on despair. But she did not leave. She stayed, and Dostoevsky, who believed he was unworthy of anything gentle, whispered to her, "If anyone has loved me, it is you." With Anna, he began to rebuild, slowly, painfully. He wrote through sickness, poverty, and madness. He wrote with a hand that trembled for a world that often didn't care, but he wrote because he had no choice. In his final years, Dostoevsky transformed pain into prophecy. His novels Crime and Punishment, The Idiot Demons, The Brothers Karamazov were not stories. They were autopsies of the human soul. He dissected fear, guilt, love, faith, sin, redemption. He explored the deepest corners of the mind, the places people are too afraid to enter. He once declared, "Man is a mystery, it must be unraveled, and if you spend your whole life unraveling it, do not say you wasted your time." Dostoevsky believed that suffering was not a curse, not a punishment, but a doorway into meaning, into compassion, into understanding what it truly means to be human. In his last days, he wrote feverishly. He knew death was close. He had seen it once already, and now he felt its breath on his neck. His final words to the world came through his masterpiece, The Brothers Karamazov, a message whispered in the voice of a dying man. The darker the night, the brighter the stars. He died quietly, a man who had suffered more than most, but had given the world more than we deserved. Fyodor Dostoevsky did not conquer his darkness. He did something far more difficult. He understood it. He explored it. He transformed it into art that still resonates today in the hearts of the broken, the lonely, the lost. His life teaches us a painful truth. The human soul is forged not in comfort, but in suffering. And yet, within that suffering, there is a strange, fierce beauty. As he once said, "The soul is healed by being with children, with beauty, with suffering, and with God." If this journey moved you, if you want more stories of tragic genius, psychological darkness, and the human fight to find meaning, please like, follow, and subscribe. Your support helps me continue creating long-form storytelling just like this. Thank you for walking through the darkness with me. Until the next story. Good night.